Before the sun goes down over the Aravalli Hills, Bhangarh looks almost peaceful, as if the stones themselves are trying to forget what happened here. But once the light fades, this fort turns into one of the most feared places in India. At the main gate, there is a warning written in plain words: no one is allowed to enter after sunset. And that warning did not come from a random guard or a frightened villager. It came from the Archaeological Survey of India. But one night, 3 people ignored that warning and decided to enter the fort. The guards watched them go in, knowing the old saying that had been repeated for generations: anyone who stays inside Bhangarh after dark never returns alive. The 3 men thought it was only a legend. They thought fear was just something people carried in their minds. The sun went down, darkness spread across the ruins. The 3 of them stepped inside with a flashlight, but the darkness was so deep that the beam only reached a few feet ahead. As they walked through the silent fort, one of them suddenly slipped and fell into an old dry well. He was badly injured. The others rushed to pull him out and put him in their car so they could take him to a hospital. But before they could get there, the car crashed on the way. All 3 died instantly. Locals still say it was not an accident. They say it was the curse of the fort. They broke the rule, stayed after dark, and paid the price. That is the story people tell when they speak about Bhangarh Fort. Every year, hundreds of thousands of tourists come here, but almost no one stays after sunset. Locals say they hear women crying at night. Some say they hear screams. Others say they feel something moving behind them, even when no one is there. It is terrifying, but the real story of Bhangarh is even more interesting than the legend. Truth begins in 1573, when Raja Bhagwantas of Amber decided to build a new city for his younger son, Madho Singh. Madho Singh was the younger brother of Man Singh, one of Emperor Akbar's most trusted generals. In the Aravalli Mountains, he built not just a fort, but a full city. At its peak, Bhangarh had more than 9,000 homes. Its royal palace rose 7 stories high. There were many temples, including the Gopinath Temple. There were palaces for ministers. There was a marketplace where merchants from across Rajputana came to trade. Thousands of people lived there, worked there, and built their lives there. But if you visit Bhangarh today, one thing stands out immediately. None of the buildings has a roof. The walls are still there. The structures are still standing, but the roofs are gone. Locals say that whenever someone tries to build a roof there, it collapses. The fort is full of broken walls, empty houses, and silent streets. In the palaces where people once lived, only stones remain. In the temples where worship once took place, and in the market where gold and silver were sold, grass now grows wild. So how did a city of 9,000 homes turn into ruins? The people of Bhangarh tell 2 stories, and both end the same way, with a curse. The first story is about a saint named Baba Balunath. According to the legend, when Madho Singh chose this location for Bhangarh, Baba Balunath was meditating there. Madho Singh asked for his permission to build the fort. The saint agreed, but only on one condition: the fort could never be tall enough for its shadow to fall on his home. If that happened, he said, the city would be destroyed. Madho Singh accepted the condition. At first, the fort was built only 4 stories high, so the saint's house would not be shadowed. But years later, Madho Singh's grandson, Ajab Singh, expanded it to 7 stories. The shadow fell on Baba Balunath's home, the condition was broken, and according to the story, Bhangarh was doomed. That is the first legend. But the second story is even more frightening. According to that version, there was a tantric named Singhir in Bhangarh. He practiced black magic. He saw the beautiful princess Ratnavati, daughter of Ch. Hattar Singh, and became obsessed with her. But he knew she would never accept him, so he used magic. One day, Princess Ratnavati went to the market and stopped at a perfume shop. Singhir saw his chance. He enchanted a bottle of perfume, turning it into a love potion, hoping that once the princess used it, she would fall under his spell. But Ratnavati saw through the trick. She threw the bottle against a large rock. The magic took hold of the stone instead. The stone, now enchanted, rolled towards Singhir and crushed him to death. But before dying, he cursed the fort. He said the entire city would be destroyed, except for the temple. He said no one living in the palace would survive. And he said no one there would ever be reborn. The legend says that the very next year, a fierce battle broke out between Bhangarh and Ajabgarh. Princess Ratnavati died. Bhangarh was destroyed, and according to the locals, the souls of Ratnavati, Singhir, and the others who died there still wander the fort to this day. That is why people say strange things happen at night. That is why tourists report hearing crying, hearing bangles break, hearing wedding music in the distance, or hearing someone begging for help. Some say they feel like they are being followed. Some even claim they smell perfume out of nowhere. Others say they hear bells and ankle bracelets near the dance hall. There are also reports that the guards do not enter the fort after dark. Many people online claim that scientific teams found paranormal activity there, or that they detected some kind of negative energy. Even Bollywood could not escape Bhangarh. Parts of the film Karan Arjun were shot here. During one song sequence, actress Mamta Kulkarni reportedly let her hair down and danced in a way that some people described as eerie or possessed. Then there is another famous story. In 2014, the director of Trip to Bhangarh, Jitendra Pawar, made a chilling claim. He said that on the first day of shooting, the car's brakes suddenly failed on the way to the fort. The driver somehow managed to stop the car in the jungle. A few minutes later, the brakes started working again. He also said that one day heavy rain forced the shoot to stop. He went into the room connected to Princess Ratnavati's story and prayed. Right after that, the rain stopped. Another person said he stayed overnight at the fort with a friend and saw a black cat appear at the window. According to him, that same cat seemed to appear again and again, even from far away as they left the area. But the most disturbing story is the one told by journalist Pallavi Depurkayastha. She said that as she and her partner were returning from Bhangarh in the evening, their scooter suddenly died. There was petrol in the tank, the lights worked, the horn worked, the speedometer worked, but the engine would not start. A man standing nearby watched them. Without touching the scooter, he started it instantly. Then he said, "They want you." When Pallavi's partner asked who, the man turned around and replied, "You know who." Because of stories like these, Bhangarh has become known as the most haunted place in India and even in Asia. Thousands of tourists visit every year, but only during the day. And that leads to the big question, are any of these stories actually true? Is Bhangarh Fort really haunted? Are the spirits of Princess Ratnavati and the Tantric truly trapped there? Now here comes the twist. Princess Ratnavati, the central figure in the haunting legend, does not appear in any verified historical record. There is no contemporary document proving that she existed. No one can say for certain whose daughter she was, who she married, or exactly when this story first began. There is also no historical proof that Baba Balunath was a real saint. These stories are folklore. They have been passed from one generation to the next, and with every retelling, they grow a little more dramatic. That means the entire haunted identity of Bhangarh may be built on characters who never truly existed. So the question remains, if the legends are not real, then why do so many people still believe they heard voices, saw shadows, or felt a presence there? How can so many visitors describe the same kind of fear? Here is the shocking part. When someone says they saw a ghost in Bhangarh, that does not automatically mean they are lying. They may genuinely have felt something strange, but the reason is not necessarily supernatural. Science may explain more than people realize. In the 1980s, a British engineer named Vic Tandy experienced something similar in his laboratory. One evening, he suddenly felt uneasy. He became cold, started sweating, and felt the hair on the back of his neck rise. He had the sense that someone was watching him. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a gray figure. But when he turned to look directly at it, the shape disappeared. There were rumors that the lab was haunted, but Tandy had never paid attention to them. Now he believed he had seen a ghost. Terrified, he left. The next day, when he came back, he noticed that a fencing foil in the lab equipment was vibrating. It turned out that a newly installed fan was producing infrasound at 19 Hz. That was the frequency that made Tandy feel watched. That was the reason for the shadow-like figure he thought he had seen. Once the fan was turned off, the infrasound stopped and the ghostly feeling disappeared. Infrasound refers to sound waves below 20 Hz. Human ears cannot hear them, but the body can feel them. These low-frequency vibrations can cause dizziness, anxiety, and the unsettling sensation that someone is nearby. The same may happen at Bhangarh. Wind moving through old stone structures can naturally create infrasound. Small earth movements, vibrations, and shifting rocks can also produce these frequencies. Bhangarh is in Alwar district, in seismic zone 4, which means it sits in a high-risk earthquake region. In a landscape like this, falling stones and low vibrations are common. Another theory involves electromagnetic fields, or EMF. In the 1990s and 2000s, some researchers suggested that places thought to be haunted might have unusual electromagnetic activity that could affect the human brain. But later studies were not conclusive, so this remains a theory, not a proven explanation. In 2012, Gaurav Tiwari, head of the Indian Paranormal Society, visited Bhangarh with his team and stayed there overnight. They carried equipment meant to detect paranormal activity, including EMF meters, thermal cameras, and audio recorders. They asked questions in the dark. Did Princess Ratnavati live here? Was Singh here nearby? But after the investigation, they found nothing. Tiwari himself reportedly said that no ghost was found there, only langurs, peacocks, jackals, hyenas, and perhaps leopards. In other words, nature was there, but nothing supernatural. Scientists have also explored similar experiences elsewhere. In 2008, researchers at Goldsmiths, University of London, conducted a project called the Haunt Project. They placed people in an ordinary white room and added hidden devices that produced EMF and infrasound. Then they asked participants to sit there for 50 minutes and describe how they felt. The results were surprising. More than 20% said they felt like another presence was in the room. Many felt dizzy. Around 8% felt fear. But when the data was analyzed more carefully, the researchers found that the reactions were similar even when the devices were off. The biggest factor was not the equipment itself, it was suggestibility. That is the real power behind many ghost stories. If people are told a place is haunted, they start to feel haunted. If they arrive expecting fear, their minds begin to interpret normal things as something supernatural. A moving branch becomes a figure, a shadow becomes a presence, a sound becomes a voice. There is a psychological phenomenon called pareidolia, where the brain sees faces or figures in random shapes. In 1976, the Viking orbiter took a famous image of Mars that appeared to show a face. People were stunned. They thought it might be proof of something extraordinary, but in reality, the human brain is built to find faces everywhere, even when none are there. The same thing can happen in Bhangarh. In the shadows of broken pillars, in the gaps between stones, in the darkness of ruined halls, the brain can begin to see human shapes where there are only old walls and empty space. So what about the signboard put up by the Archaeological Survey of India that says no one may enter after sunset? Many people assume it is proof that the fort is haunted, but the real reason is much more practical. Bhangarh was declared a centrally protected monument in 1951. The fort is badly damaged, and its walls can collapse. There is no proper lighting at night. It is simply unsafe. There is another reason too. The Saraska Tiger Reserve is only about 50 kilometers away. That reserve covers a huge area and contains tigers, leopards, hyenas, monkeys, and other wild animals. These animals often move near Bhangarh at night. The eerie crying sounds people describe are often just hyenas. Their calls can sound like screaming or weeping from far away. Monkeys also live in the fort, and when they move through the trees at night, it can sound like someone is nearby. In 2016, an official from the Archaeological Survey of India said that Bhangarh is not haunted. Other officials and local guides have said the same thing. A local woman who has lived near the fort since childhood also said there are no ghosts there, only wild animals. The real danger at night is not the supernatural. It is the combination of darkness, damaged structures, and wildlife. That signboard is not a warning about ghosts. It is a warning about safety. Now let's return to the story of the three men at the beginning. Who were they really? No one knows. What were their names? No one knows. Was there ever a police report? No. Was there an official record? No. That story, too, is part of the folklore that helps keep the myth alive. The idea that no one survives a night in Bhangarh is simply not true. Many people have spent the night there and lived to tell the story. But one mystery still remains. How did a city of 9,000 homes actually collapse? The real answer is dramatic enough without a curse. Bhangarh rose under Madho Singh. Later, his grandson Ajab Singh built another fort nearby called Ajabgarh and ruled from there, which gradually reduced Bhangarh's importance. In 1720, Sawai Jai Singh of Amber attacked both Bhangarh and Ajabgarh and took control. Over time, Bhangarh lost political power and became a secondary town. Then came the famine of 1783, caused by unusual El Niño conditions. Northern India suffered severe drought. This was the Chalisa famine, one of the worst in history. In some regions, half or even two-thirds of the population died. Rajasthan was already dry, and when the famine struck, survival became nearly impossible. People left in search of food and water. Bhangarh emptied out and slowly became a ruin. So there was no curse, no black magic, and no real supernatural destruction. Political decline, war, and famine turned a thriving city into the haunted ruin people visit today. And yet, the ghost story survives. Why? Because human beings remember stories more than facts. Bhangarh collapsed in 1783 because of famine is true, but it is not unforgettable. A tantric, a cursed princess, and a doomed city is something people never forget. Our minds crave a story with a villain, a mystery, and a dramatic ending. It feels more complete than random history. There is also tourism. The label of India's most haunted place brings huge crowds to Bhangarh every year, and the local economy benefits from the legend. And of course, social media makes everything stronger. If a visitor says, "I saw nothing," that story dies instantly. But if someone says, "I felt a presence," or "my phone battery drained," the story spreads fast. That is how legends survive. Maybe that is the real secret of Bhangarh. Not that it is haunted, but that it is unforgettable. The fort stands as a place where history, fear, and imagination have blended so completely that separating them has become almost impossible. And perhaps that is the most haunting truth of all.